My grandfather told me a story once, as we sat around a campfire in his backyard, in the cool night of the Arizona desert. The horizon was clear, and each star twinkled in a purple sky with a full fat moon hanging low over the mountains. His voice was raspy and gravelly, the result of a lifetime of smoking cigars and drinking whiskey. The fire danced and shined across his wide, dark eyes as he settled into his seat, ready to tell his story. Way back when I was a boy about your age, he began, I lived outside an Apache reservation with your great-grandfather. He had returned from the war and set about raising horses and cattle on a 100-acre ranch settled between a brambly mountainside with dirt good for growing thorn brush and not much else. One night, my mother was sick, and Pa and I took a trip into town about 50 miles away, straight through a dry desert, over a washed-out creek, and some old abandoned farmsteads. The fire sparked and a log cracked, jolting me out of the story. What next? I asked. Settle down, boy. You'll hear soon enough. Pa and I were driving in an old Ford pickup truck. I remember it was dark out, inky and thick, with the only lights of our old truck lighting up the road. I remember too when the engine began to sputter and the truck slowed to a jerky stop. God damn it, Pa said, guiding the Ford to the side of the road as it coasted to a halt. Stay here, son. As he stepped out into the darkness, shutting the door with a heavy thud. My window was down, and the cool desert air was breezy and felt good on my hot face and neck. Pa was getting water from the back to cool the engine, and that's when I smelled it. Rotten eggs. Strange, I thought, to smell sulfur in the desert. My nose also picked up carrion, like one of them dead bloated cattle that would drop from the heat and lay there until the crows pecked enough holes in their hide to cause the whole thing to explode. It stunk, and I gagged. My skin started to tingle too, the back of my neck felt itchy, and my face started to get hot. The wind stopped blowing and hung still and heavy, with the stink filling the cab. Pa, I called. Pa! Pa! No answer. My heart started beating, and I felt such a fear in me, in my bones, in my chest, boy. I tell you, I never felt like this, not until Vietnam, not until I saw men dying around me. I locked the door and reached over for my pa's door, and saw a shadow bound across the road, through both dim beams of light, across the partly open domed hood. Grandfather paused. He spit out a fat wad of tobacco spit off to his side, and he looked pensively into the darkness. I realized I was holding my breath and gasped for air. The night was cool, but I was sweating and clammy. Well, what happened? What about your father? What did you see? He sighed. A creature. He shook his head. You have to understand, there were legends, old legends, older than the rock cairns out in the valley. Older still than Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull, than the old Indian chiefs and their shamans, the Apache and Hopi and Cherokee, and all them old tribes and first people. They told tales, old stories, about dark Indian magic, a deal made with the old spirits of blood sacrifice to gain power, old power, enough to fight each other, and the Spaniards, and later the white men that came for their land and women. They called them. He paused. Grandfather took a deep breath and bodied forward into his tale. Across the fire and the sky, the desert, the creek, the moon, the sun, and old mountains. He bodied forward. They called them Skinwalkers, shape changers. Old warriors resurrected as skinless men all sinew and muscle, walking on deer legs, with the torso of a man and the head of a coyote. But messed up, boy. Long and malformed snouts, teeth like a bowie knife, long arms, and standing 7 foot, even hunched over. They'd gut the old cowboys and white raiders. They'd run through bullets and sabers, part of the Spanish armor like it was a potato sack. Wily, too. They can change their voice to match a person you knew or might know. Boy, that's what I saw. Big and fast, only for a second. It ran across the road, gray and mottled, muscle flexing under its legs, hoofs clomping on the road, stringy muscled hunched shoulders. And it turned, looked right into the cab, looked right into my eyes, and I swear, boy, I swear it grinned at me. I sank into my seat, in shock, in fear, shaking. I knew death was near. The air was electric. I smelled ozone and brimstone. The air felt like right before the lightning comes and blows a tree to smithereens, charged and with full power. I yelled for my paw, but no words came out, just a dry squeak. I was shaking as grandfather told his story. He was still here, so I know he lived, but the supernatural always fascinated me, and even now, I felt the force of his words. The real power of Skinwalkers was trickery. Sure, they could change their voices, but also their skin. That's why the gods took their hide, so they could take others. Not for long, the legends say. Maybe an hour, before the soul of the skin they wore would come looking for their mortal shell before going to whatever hell awaited them. I think that getting skinned alive was hell enough. A minute passed in what felt like a lifetime, 1 second in 1,000 years. My father's door opened, and I jerked my head to the left, putting my fists up to fend off attack. "Son, it's me," my father said, before climbing into the cab. He grasped the steering wheel and pulled himself in awkwardly, jerking himself into the seat. I cringed in the corner. I looked at him. I looked hard. "Boy, your great-grandfather was a good man. Treated me and my ma right. He fought the Nazis and saw the worst of man in Poland, where he freed them all from camps. And now, I was taking his measure. Is this my father? Do I make a run or do I die? Is it him or not? Let's go get that medicine for your ma." As he pulled the truck into gear and pulled it out onto the road, our trip resumed. I guess it was him after all. "But how did you know? Was it because he said something about your mom?" "No, boy. I knew because out the window, out the corner of my eye, I seen that beast running 50 miles an hour right next to the car, looking at me with them yellow eyes and grinning mouth. I looked and saw it, hunched and angry, running next to us, boy." My pa kept his eyes on the road, locked straight forward. "Son," he said, "don't look at it. Don't look at it." That's how I knew, boy. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I just wanted to let you guys know if I sound a little different, because I've had a slight cold all week and my throat's kind of been iffy. So, I wanted to at least get a video out so you guys weren't left hanging on the weekend. Hope you guys have a great one. Thanks for watching, and thank you so much for your support. It really means the world to me.